Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Career Chat. I'm Krista Harmon, one of the career readiness consultants with the Kent Intermediate School District, and I'm so delighted to have Christine Sokomba with us today. She is a financial analyst, and we are so glad you're sharing your time with us, Christine. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So when we talk about our career paths, young people love to hear what you were thinking back in high school, because they have lots of questions of where they're headed. And did you have this all figured out in high school, Christine? Did you want to be a financial analyst when you grew up? Tell us what you were thinking.
I don't think I knew I wanted to be a financial analyst, but I did know that I wanted to study math and have a career in math. And so when I was in high school, I said I was going to be an actuary. And I did start going down that path and then sort of changed it along the way to suit my personal needs and my family's needs. So
yeah,
kind of evolved.
Yeah, we're going to dig into some of those changes too. Had math always come easy for you? Is that why you knew you wanted to study math? Or what was that like?
I liked math the best. It wasn't necessarily easy for me, but I enjoyed it the most out of all of my classes. I liked the objectivity of it versus the subjectivity of it. I said I could write a paper and turn it into any different teacher and they'd give me a different grade. But if I gave the same math test to various teachers, I would pretty much get the same grade. And I liked that.
Yeah, that's so funny. As young people, you watch this, you might want to do some self-thinking, like, do I like to have that concrete answer, or am I okay with things having a different outcome? Because it's one of those things we don't think about with our personalities or interests, right? So I love that. So you're thinking about math. How do you even know about actuary as a high school student? How did that word even come into your life?
Yeah, I think it was my sophomore math teacher. I don't think he brought one in, but he talked about it and told us about it. I don't remember if he had a friend or something, but he just raved about actuaries. And I thought, I really do want to do something with math. And at that time, I said, I do not want to be a math teacher. And to me, those were the only options. And so I went full speed ahead and said, I will be an actuary when I grow up.
So I love it because there are influences in our lives. We have parents and teachers, and we hear these different things, even on TV, right? What we hear about is what we know. And so young people, again, if you're watching this, will stick around after Christine's done, and I'll give you some resources that will help you explore. We have some great ways that you can learn about what other jobs you can do with math. So you graduated from high school. Did you know then right away that you had to go off to college? And how did you even decide on your college?
Yeah, I knew that I wanted to go to college. I applied to several. I knew I wanted to have a math major, and I also was playing volleyball and running track for my high school team, and I knew I would love to do that in college. So I was not capable of doing that at a Division I level, but I did want to do it at the Division III or Division II level. But I was looking at mostly Division III schools, and I ultimately decided on Calvin College and among a couple other ones. And it was really down to the wire. I didn't know which one I wanted. I felt like there was a right answer and I didn't know how to make the right choice. And by talking to different mentors and different people in my life, I kind of just realized that whichever one I chose was the one I was gonna go with. Like I couldn't just look back or think if I had only done that. There's nothing wrong with switching or transferring or anything like that. But for me, it was like I felt like I needed to make the right choice and I didn't know how to make the right choice. So I just said, okay, if I'm going to Calvin, I'm going to Calvin. I'm not going to think about these other schools. It's not a choice anymore. I shouldn't regret it. I shouldn't think back on it.
Yeah, that was now your choice, and that's where your path was going to start.
Yeah.
Was looking at their actuarial program part of that decision making? Did all those colleges have a program?
Actually, no. There were not really any actuarial science programs at the time that I was looking at school. So I was going to have a math major and really I was going to have to do all the actuarial stuff on the side. And excuse me, that's ultimately what I ended up doing, was studying for exams and taking exams on my own time instead of now how it's kind of built into the major and the studies along the way.
Yeah, I think that's important for young people to hear, Christine, is that sometimes young people will get themselves into a real niche type of a degree, and then they kind of lock themselves in. Whereas, like you said, math major could take you different ways, and with this additional testing or certifications that got you to where you needed to be. So young people, just be aware that sometimes it helps to have a little broader undergrad. Did you have to get a master's degree then, or was it really just these specific types of tests that you had to take to get the actuarial science license or certificate?
It was just an undergraduate degree. And then you could take the tests on your own timeline, and that was just more of like a move within your career, is to continue to pass exams. And I did not achieve that. I stopped along the path and said I didn't want to do that anymore. The amount of time and stress that it put on me to study for those exams wasn't what I wanted in my life. So ultimately, I worked as an actuarial analyst without having passed any exams. I didn't have any credentials and I couldn't sign off on anything. My leaders had those abilities. And then I changed companies and became a financial analyst because the actuaries had to be in the exam track.
I'd like to dig in a little bit into your feelings at that time, Christine, when you kind of had this goal to be an actuary and now you're in it, taking some of this test and it's becoming really stressful. How did you kind of, what was your thought process to be able to give yourself permission to stop?
That's a really good question. That was really hard for me. Anything that I've like set as like my identity is really hard for me to shift. Like I'd say I'm pretty driven and kind of one track at that point. Like I'm gonna do what I say I'm gonna do. And so I think it was hard for me to let myself not do what I said I was going to do. But knowing that I was still in a successful career, I had a job, I had, room for growth within my job. It wasn't detrimental for me. So
Yeah, because like you said, you were working, you were seeing your peers doing similar work. So it wasn't that title that you needed to have anymore to be happy and using your skills and talents.
right. At the time I was commuting an hour to my job one way, so 2 hours a day, and the time that you're supposed to put into studying for these actuarial exams, it's like 100 hours per hour of exam, and these exams are like 3 hours, so you're supposed to like 300 hours, 400 hours, and I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy for me. I needed all of those hours in order to even pass. So yeah.
Yeah, so young people, if you're thinking about being an actuary, do some Googling and, learn about what that test process is and, find out what kind of studying supports there are in place. But for you, Christine, again, you decided, so you became a financial analyst. Why don't you just give us some quick descriptions of really what an actuary is and then really what a financial analyst is? And is there much difference?
Yeah. So as far as what I did in actuarial departments as an actuarial analyst, I was projecting future claims based on historical claims. Originally, I was at a property and casualty insurance company and dealing with the different lines of business there. So trying to project out how much there would be in claims to see if you have enough money to cover all of those claims. If you don't, having to make rate increases. If you have more than enough, getting to make rate decreases, things like that. Then I moved into the health insurance industry and I worked in the actuarial department as a financial analyst, and I was working on pricing there as well, doing a lot of preparing for rate filings and other regulatory filings with the state. You have to submit all of your like paperwork to the state of Michigan to say this is what we want to do, and they have to accept it. And so I was working with the team on that, modeling our rates and pricing, things like that. And then I switched roles, and now I'm in a medical economics valuation role. And what we do is similar to what I was doing originally, but with medical claims, is estimating how much we haven't paid yet and seeing how that puts us for the company. Solvency wise, are we able to pay our claims? How much do we have? What will we need in the future? Things like that. Did I answer your
Yeah, for young
question?
people, yeah, I just wanted to help them understand what modeling is when you use that word. What does that mean?
It's really just putting what you know with some other assumptions and tweaking some of those assumptions to getting a result, and then seeing how that result will play out, and again making changes along the way with like just tweaking little levers and other things to see what might happen, seeing different scenarios, stuff like that.
And do computers help you with that,
Oh
Christine?
yeah, computers, Excel, a lot of other tools and resources, but I basically live in Excel, which is a happy place for me. I am happy to live there.
That's a great self-assessment right now, young people. If you already have had the opportunity to be at Excel and it makes you happy, continue down this path. For some of us, no way, no
Right.
thank you. But I know that some of the young people are listening to you describe those jobs and they think, oh my gosh, that seems like so much. How do you really learn that? So did you learn the skills in college, or do you end up kind of learning on the job and you have mentors that are showing you the way and you're learning new software? Tell us the reality of kind of what college prepares you for and what the real world prepares you for.
I think college just gave me a better number sense and mathematical sense. But I couldn't even go back right now and do some of the stuff I did in college. Like that's not what I use day to day. And so what I use day to day, I learned on the job. Somebody who had been doing it longer than me sat with me and showed me, and then I practiced and I got better at it. And now I can teach other people who are starting out how to do it. And again, like I just tell people when if I'm interviewing with them or teaching them about my job, it's like you just can't be scared of numbers in this job. You can't hate numbers because you're gonna deal with them all day long. And it's not necessarily being a human adding machine or anything. We use calculators and computers, but having that number sense and making like knowing that your result makes sense, or knowing when the computer has not done something right, or when the data isn't right, and knowing, using your human brain to know if the numbers make sense.
Yeah, I love that. Just a number sense. I think there's some people who are just naturally good drivers, or some of us who are just naturally good writers. So some of us are naturally good with numbers. So again, young people, as you're hearing this, does that come naturally for you? Again, it's really finding what kind of jobs fit who you are. Well, I love that. So what would you say? I'm sure you don't have every day is probably some difference in it, but what would you say is a typical day so young people get a sense of what you do?
It is different every day. What I do is pretty cyclical on a monthly cycle. So we support the accounting process of month end financial statements. One like the largest liability on our financial statement is the unpaid, like the claims that we still owe, and so we are estimating those every month. And so for about 1 to 2 weeks out of the month, we're actively working on that with the data through the end of the month. And then for the other 2 to 3 weeks, I work on our large case estimation. So everything we do is pretty high level and just looking at aggregate claims. But what I get to do is look at individual claims that we expect will cost in excess of $200,000. And I will estimate those specifically and make sure that we account for them in the time that they occurred and when we expect them to pay, to make sure that, again, that we have the resources to pay that when the time comes. Because medical claims, especially, they aren't, I mean, if you've been to a doctor and then you pay your bill, there's all that stuff that goes on in the middle. And if you have questions, like there's just a cycle. It doesn't happen immediately. There's time. Sometimes it can take months. Sometimes it can take years. There can be litigation. There can be reversals due to, I don't know, outside things like having auto insurance might cover your claim versus your health insurance and different things like that.
Yeah, and I think the average person wouldn't realize that there's so many dynamic factors, that it's not just straight numbers in and out, like a accounts payable, receivable kind of thing, right?
Right.
Yeah. What would you like to say, just to address some of those myths about your job, what you think people think you do versus what you really do? What would you like to dispel?
Well, I think there's a lot of different financial analysts. So I guess, some people might think of budgeting or forecasting, and some people might think of financial planning. That might be different, but I don't know. I think the biggest myth is that, like, if you're good at math or interested in math, that you're just super nerdy. And I mean, I think we're all nerdy in our own way. Whatever like really makes us excited is what makes us kind of nerdy. So the people that I work with are great. I mean, not everybody just loves to sit at their computer and be alone. Like we're not all introverts. We're not personable. So that's what I think is one of the biggest myths, is that we're just all really nerdy with our pocket protectors and our taped up glasses and stuff like that.
No, I love that you pointed that specific trait out, because I do think people think, well, I don't want to be behind a computer all day. I'm a people person, but you are dealing with people. So give us some examples of that specifically for people that might like math, but are people.
Oh yeah. I would say I'm that, and I deal with people every day. I mean, since the pandemic and working from home, you miss people and you don't deal with them as much, and it's through a screen instead of, side by side. But it is very rare for me to have a day of total solitude. There are various meetings, there's different collaborative processes. There's a lot of times where you have to talk to a coworker and ask a question, or vice versa. They would like to talk to you and ask you a question. So it's a lot of collaboration, a lot of um, time together, just as much as there's time alone and working on your own projects. So.
And that kind of leads into kind of the next question. In high schools, we're trying to work with our young people to do soft skills or life skills and things like teamwork, collaboration, and communication. So you mentioned collaboration quite a bit in that answer. Are there any other skills that you know are important in your work that young people should be thinking about developing, or maybe that come natural for people that make a good financial analyst?
Nothing really comes to mind. I just think that in any professional setting, there's certain things like we talked about, collaboration, curiosity, just yeah, that teamwork. Um, there's there's really none of that you can really avoid. I think in a professional setting, you're going to have to communicate, even if it's not face to face, via email, and you're going to need to know what your words are going to sound like when someone reads them, and you don't really want to make enemies. And yeah, there's a lot of learning along the way of, oops, I didn't know that you would interpret it that way, or that's not at all what I meant, and kind of smoothing those things over. But I think that's normal and natural, and everybody goes through that.
Yeah, that certainly is a part of becoming a professional, that you learn some of those things on the job. Again, maybe you can't learn it in college, or along the way. So that's great. I know we had talked a little bit before we got started. Sometimes young people know that they may want to work part-time at some point in their lives, for different family reasons. I guess I kind of assume sometimes financial, there's not as much freedom, but you've experienced something different. Tell us about some of the flexibility you have in your current role.
Yeah, I've been with this company for almost 10 years, and about 3 years ago, I went part-time. Um, I have 3 kids, and initially when I was working, I kept wanting to, or I saw myself as climbing up the ladder. I wanted to, first I was an individual contributor, and then I saw myself wanting to be in management. And then as my life changed and I started having a family, I thought, no, I don't think I want to do that. And now I'm really happy to be an individual contributor. I don't have aspirations right now to be in management. Um, and they were flexible with me to be part-time now, so that I can, specifically, I get my kids on and off the bus, and I have Fridays off, and I use those Fridays often to volunteer at their school. Um, so for me, they've been flexible, and I really like that, because I didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom when I had children, but working full-time was extremely difficult.
Yeah, and sometimes again, you make choices as you move along. You don't know what you don't know. So at the time you didn't want to, but then as you had more children, you did. And this job gave you some of that flexibility. And I think that's important for young people to know. There's different employers that will give you different flexibility. So you never kind of have to settle. You can keep working for what you want, right?
Yeah. And I know for some people, like again, I started out full time, and I worked full time for at least probably 6 years before I switched to part time. Not that that's required, but that was my experience. And then when I asked for that, they were more, or I don't know if they were more willing, but they were willing to accommodate my request, knowing that I was a diligent worker and would still put in the time and effort and energy and get my work done.
Yeah, I think you're demonstrating that absolutely. You were doing a good job, so they don't want to lose you, so they're willing to give you some of that flexibility, knowing they may get you back full time as your kids get older. They were willing to work with you. That's great. I love to hear that. A lot of employers are getting smart about that. A lot of young people would love to know what your favorite part of your job is as a financial analyst, and what is the part that you just don't like.
So I have two favorite parts when I think about it. First is that I really found that I love training. So when I get to teach either an intern or a new hire how to do something, or even just if we switch roles and I am going from being the expert on something and someone else is trying to learn that, I really enjoy teaching. Again, I didn't want to be a teacher in high school, and I'm not a teacher. And even volunteering at my kid's school, I'm not a teacher, and I don't think I could be a school teacher like with a classroom, but I do enjoy teaching or training on processes that I am familiar with. The other thing that's favorite about this job is the repetitive nature of it, the cyclical nature of it. Some people would say that's like once they want to rip their eyeballs out at that sort of thing, and I don't. Like, it's not the same every month, but it's similar with different data, and so it's predictable and yet unpredictable. It's new while being the same. And that is something that draws me to it, that I like. And so that leads me into one of my least favorite things about my job, if ever there's something like just kind of one and done, like it's not coming back around and getting touched again and again. It's like brand new, it's starting from scratch. Like it's not my favorite thing to just have a blank spreadsheet and try to build something. Mine is more picking up a spreadsheet and working with it. So that's it.
Yeah, again, young people, when you hear her describe that, you can do some self thinking like, oh, I do like some repetitive, even though it's different data, different people. Or some of you are like, nope, I need something new and fresh and spontaneous every day. That's part of the self-assessment process that you're going through. That's great.
Yeah, I used to think that was a really negative thing. I actually had a leader when I was brand new at my job ask me, do you prefer to do something repeatedly and over again, or would you rather start something and build it and see it to the end? And I looked at him and I said, I think I know the right answer, and I think I have the wrong answer. And he says, there's no wrong answer. I said, I like to do things, I like repeated things. He's like, that's great. I just want to know, because that helps me know what types of tasks you would be interested in. So that stuck with me, because I really felt like there was a right and a wrong, and that I was wrong because I was different, or because it's cool to be innovative and brand new, like to work on stuff and build it, and that just wasn't me. And I'm happy now, and I can say with confidence, I like this stuff. It's not that I'm doing the same thing. I'm not pushing a button like anybody could do. I'm using my brain, and I'm digging into things, finding problems and solving them. But I do like the repeated tasks.
Yeah, my personality, even we had a program called Groundhog Saturday, and we built it from scratch. And I think we did it 3 years in a row. And I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm ready for something new. And those 3 years, we continually made it better. But I'm like, no, ready for something new. Even career chats, it's been 2 years. It's like, okay, what else could I develop? So it's just funny. And personalities are personalities, right? That's what makes the world go round, is we all have different things. We have about 4 minutes left. I'd love to hear, obviously you're working part-time, you have 3 children, it's going so great, it's a great fit. Are there opportunities for you as you continue on your career path that you could do more intentional training? Are there those kind of positions within your company that you could start to even fine tune to that next level? Or what are some of that future opportunities for someone as a financial analyst?
I think there's a lot of things we could do. My company has like LinkedIn Learning, and you can sign up for just different courses, or even just, it's not something that you do, over 6 weeks. It's just watching a seminar and then like learning about something. So there's always new tools that I could learn. I could learn more coding or program writing. That's not what I do right now, but it could be. There are people on my team that are more experienced with SQL and Visual Basic and things like that, that I'm not. So if I wanted to, I could learn that. At this point, I don't have to. There's also like so many different departments that I could still be in as a financial analyst and get exposed to totally different work, but still having that number sense, that general understanding of the organization that I work in, and being able to apply what I've learned in my previous roles to new roles. So there's always something. It's never gonna like be totally stagnant. I could, if I was bored, I could like look up other openings and try to transfer. My organization is really large, so there's a ton of opportunities. I just don't have the desire right now, but yeah.
No, and that's great. And I think there's a lot of pressure on young people to figure out what they want to do, and they fear that they have to lock in now, and they're like that for the rest of their lives. And I'm glad you shared that. This never, there's not one end to it. There's always new opportunity. Just as my final quick question, just give us some example of some of the other careers or occupations just around you. Because again, we might have heard of financial analysts, but we don't even know some of the other positions, and maybe some that don't even need a college degree. Does everybody there need one, or are there other support positions?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm just thinking of the floor that I sat on. Accounting was over the way, accounts payable, accounts receivable. We have an advanced analytics department where there's data engineers, there are advisors. I mean, within the health insurance organization anyway, there are nurses, there are pharmacists, there are doctors that work in the insurance company, that don't see patients but work on their records and help us with analyzing that sort of stuff. Yeah, those are the ones that come to mind. I'm sure there's a million more.
No, but that's such a great, and even hearing that some of the medical professionals are right in there with you doing the data, I love that. Well, that 30 minutes went really fast, Christine.
Yeah.
You get to share a kind of final word of wisdom, and then we'll wrap things up for you.
Mine is that it takes all kinds, just like I was talking about before. There's nothing wrong with you being you. There's no one right way to be. Know who you are and be excited that that's who you get to be. You don't have to be like anybody else.
I love that. That's gold wisdom right there, Christine. You've been a gem to come and share your time with us today. And I know young people, as they watch this, even our recordings, are going to gain some great insights. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.